Oh, that's cool. What the fuck is that? Where's that going? Wait, is that the holder?
It's a magnet, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that. They have that now?
Yep.
I'm so fucking stupid. This day old, man. This day old. I gotta navigate these door bars. Okay. Gotta fix that, that's for sure. That's a door slammer. Hi. Hey. Another one. They're all so cool and they're all unique, and every chance we get, I'm gonna cover them and explain the process and whatever we're doing to them or whatever part we have in them. Before we get into this, the channel, MCD1, Morgan Clarke Design, this whole thing with the studio and the Fab Diaries and everything, my original intention, and it hasn't changed, is to just cover this like a story, like a journey. And whatever we're doing, wherever we are going, whatever we're working on, I want to just start, because the company is kind of in its infancy still. And I feel like if we just start covering this stuff, you know, whether it's once a week or twice a week or 3 times or every day, and we just kind of document everything, I think it'll be a really awesome thing to look back on and a story to follow. And it's like the thing with life and vehicles or people or anything is just stories, always like a good story and a good foundation. And that's really, to me, what makes things valuable or more special and unique. So what you see here, we'll talk about the story here. I am going to cover my part and where I was with this thing and why it has a significant part of my life or memories, and then we'll go into the details. But I mean, the meat and potato here, 1400 truck on 37s, not 39s or 40s, about 5 feet of frame rail, center mount, 4-link, Ford motor, super spicy, fully gone through truck, stitched dash, upholstered dash in a race truck. That's the shit. So that's kind of just your bread and, I was gonna say something else, but meat and potato, we'll stick there. When I was at Kali Kustoms years ago, one of the main guys there, Trey, who I love Trey, he's got a special spot in my heart too. His boss, Adam, who's the owner of Kali Kustoms, needed to cage his personal truck, which was an extra cab Silverado. I was working in another shop full-time on the weekdays, and then I came in on the weekends and caged his truck, and I did it in like some kind of record time. It was just a cab cage. I popped out through the front, popped out through the, you know, the belt line and the C-pillar of the truck, and did the whole entire thing, MIG welded, but all chrome ollie, all nice, and I think I did it in 6 days total, so 3 weekends. And Adam was like, dude, come on, you want to work for me? Like, blah, blah, blah. And we just got along well. And Adam is a whole nother story. Adam is a huge, significant person to me, and one of the most respectable, hardworking dudes I know. I love that dude. He's awesome. And he went out of his way for me with everything, and he was just a mentor, and I still talk to him to this day, and I have a great relationship, and just solid people over there. So once I jumped full-time to Kali Kustoms, Adam goes, all right, first job, I want you to build a 1400 truck. It's gonna be center mount F-150. All the words are, I'm like, ooh, you know, oh yeah, I need that. So when I hear things like that, it gets me stoked. And he's like, it's gonna be a single cab, old school F-150, and I'm game on, obviously, let's go. Yeah, let's go. So when we got this truck at Kali Kustoms, it was this all media blasted. The front, which was just, I think, part of the bulkhead and some weird tube work. And then the frame was chopped. So it was chopped respectably kind of further out where I could still have room to kind of figure things out. And that's all I got, and it was on a cart. We were gonna work with Nate Hansen at Blitzkrieg Motorsports to develop the front end. We were gonna put a new center mount kit on it, Blitzkrieg hubs, and then obviously his trailing arms, TubeWorks axle, and then a Blitzkrieg fuel cell back half, which is just a lay down spare, not a cradle. And so we kind of had the parts. The original client, it was Jim and his boy Connor. And you know, all the guys are cool, but that was the goal. Like, we were gonna MIG weld the thing. Wasn't gonna be like super bougie as far as the construction, kind of just make it just a gnarly 1400 truck. And that's what we started with. I don't know who built it before Cali got a hold of it and like rebuilt it, but it came with different parts. It was an interesting center mount in the front. Like the spread was kind of weird with the pivots. The shock package is smaller. It's a 14 and a 16-inch stroke shock in the back. So there was some things that we worked with, building to the constraints of what we had. That being said, it turned out awesome. Like, this thing's been really reliable. It's got some trans issues right now that we're gonna resolve and we'll talk about in a minute. But overall, I remember Jim raced this thing. I think Trey either co-drove or rode shoddy, and the thing finished its first race, no problems. I think it even finished second or something. And it continued to do so when they raced it. It's also a great play truck. It's got beautiful wiring on it. Justin did all the wiring. But as far as my story goes, like, this was my grind for, I don't know, maybe 8 months or something. And I thrashed on it hard every single day. I'd get stuff done quickly, efficiently. And also, you know, if I needed to get parts, I'd swing by McKinsey's, talk to Jeff Black, and then shoot into the shop, and I just have stuff. It was very efficient and quick. That's the way Adam's business is down there. Like I said, he's awesome to work for. The first thing I needed to navigate was the door bar situation. There was previous stuff here, and we wanted to kind of have something stout and something legal, but also something that you can get in and out of okay, where it's not just like straight belt line tubes. And this is kind of what we got. I added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the other stuff, like this guy, that guy, that guy, obviously the A-pillar were there. So just a big, I mean, it makes sense. It gets you your secondary A-pillar. Obviously the sheet metal's cut out here so we could weld everything. But that worked out, and it's unique, but it's easy to get in and out of, and it's comfortable, and you don't bang your elbows either. So that works. I want to kind of just go over this thing in the way that I built it, and then we'll cover like all the finish work and the details, and then we'll close out on what we're gonna do to it, and then we get to do another episode, at least with all the modifications and possibly testing too. So I'm gonna pull the bedside and we'll look at the whole rear. One of the things I've noticed with like bedside mounts, and I don't know if I do it on purpose or if it's just something that happens accidentally, but I always build them where instead of like, sometimes with bedsides on trucks, you like whatever structure is coming out to the tabs, you go to take the thing, like you take your last bolt out and it's like, and it just wants to fall. And I always like have them set where they want to chill, and it gives you that time to rack all these bolts and then figure out what you're gonna do and then take the thing off. And I just noticed it's like a reoccurring thing with the trucks I build. but I don't know if it's on purpose or not. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. Look at those shock angles. So when you're using like a 14-16 stroke, like this is a 14-inch stroke coilover and a 16-inch stroke bypass, a lot of the way to get the travel is you can always kick them forward. And I'm not a huge stickler on these things needing to be directly at 90. As long as they're not going inverted, they work great. So that was kind of the thing here. This is like a 25-inch travel truck. It's valved. I think Kevin did the valving with dialed, but everything's packaged. You know, this is like the first big back half job I had. So to kind of walk you through the details here, you can see you got that wild style shock mount there. Yeah, wow. The first part we did though, these are Blitzkrieg pivots, just your standard issue like frame rail pivot. And then we started, I mean, there's some kind of old stuff under there. We'll just put our hand there. No, I'm just kidding. You can see where the B-pillar tube lands, and then there's like these big gnarly frame rails, old frame horns, I guess you call them. But this was like my traditional style back then with doing frame horns. I'd do a like a plate on tube. So there's a bottom tube, and then this is all like boxed, one side, top side, back side, so 3 side with the inlaid plate just to kind of add some design and style. With these trucks, it's really kind of nice because like Nate makes or Blitzkrieg makes these fuel cell cradle back halves, and this is not like your typical radius deal. This is a big, I think a 95 gallon with dual laydown spares instead of the other style. Cell comes out the bottom on a bolt-on cradle, and then really what's cool is you just like this whole part of the chassis is done. So as long as you figure out how to square this thing to the chassis, plumb bob or do whatever you have to do, then you just tie all these in. It's got a pretty unique tube layout, and also the shock mounts. I kind of wanted to get up close with these guys. Kind of see there's a main structure here with like through holes, ties into this diagonal tube here, also ties into this junction, ties into this top tube, and then it's got a little substructure here that also ties into the B-pillar tube, I guess you'd call your beltline tube. See the packaging, some of this stuff is just off the shelf items, and then we kind of make them work, like just the end plates on here. But Cal Prefun is like your Kurt Leduc style sway bar. But there's little like trinkets of plate work on here like this. This is like your sway bar arm mount, you know, that's built off the chassis, built into that intersection there. This is also back when I MIG welded a lot, so you can kind of see those guys. And then it's just the same thing with packaging, you know, trying to get stuff square where you can, trying to find parallels, and also making sure everything is functional and it works. You know, so the same with the sway bar. That sway bar kind of hangs out off the trailing arm here. And again, you know, the housing came used on the truck, so that's your old bump pad here, and then we have our new bump pad. And it looks like it even had a little triple hitter bump pad back there. So this, I just wanted to kind of go through some of this stuff because it was just a special time in my life to be able to build something like this. And you know, each project is usually, I guess that's just the part of having passion with something, is enjoying each project. Because I started thinking about, I'm like, dude, every project I've worked on, I'm super grateful to work on. I'm just, I'm a happy guy with this stuff. So see, this was something I added. This was a swing out jack handle. Then it indexes here, pulls out, and then that's your jack handle. So it's kind of a cool little thing. It's on a little Heim in there. Goes together easy. And then it's just loaded on a hose, a little cut piece of hose, so it kind of has a spring load. There you go. Spare drive shaft, just little box mounts for that stuff. This Geyser Brothers, this is actually a dry brake and a fill cap. I love these. It ran duals before. I don't know why they put just a regular filler over there. it is what it is. Rear mounted radiator, built this light rack. These are OG Vision X lights, but you can see like everything's kind of got little details in it that just are cool. As far as the tube layout goes, this might give you a better idea. But so you have your, your traditional down tubes, and this tube, even though you can't see it, this tube spans all the way from the top of the cab and it goes straight into the bump zone. So it's not going up here like your typical way. That tube's going right to the impact of the bump, right in that bottom junction. And then the other tubes are going right to the middle. And it's just, once you start following all the junctions, they're very tied in. There's also provision here. There was another cooler set up back here, and that's our trans cooler. So there's a big kind of ducting valley, if you can kind of pick that up, that comes from the middle, between the driver and the co-driver, and it funnels air to the trans coolers right below the radiator. These are also storage boxes. So, for both driver and passenger, you have storage for tools or soft goods or whatever you want to put in there. This was originally built to do NORA. That was the main purpose of this truck. So everything was tailored kind of for taking long vacations with it. Another thing to note is like removable subframes for fiberglass mounting. I really like to make these removable, where if you blow this thing off or damage it, it's not something where you have to cut, especially since this whole truck is powder coated. It's just something you can remove. And then, if you wanted to go to the dunes and you're not running bedsides and you're maybe running a paddle setup, then you don't have all the reindeer antlers hanging off your truck just fixed to the truck. One of the mods I had added was this bumper section. So you can see like this lower portion where there's a tube coming off the end and then going to a miter, going parallel with the back and then dodging back in. That's what I had, and I also had this upright, and then they added this. So that was probably a necessity. I'm sure that maybe on the design flaw side of things, if this thing was being raised and someone was coming up to give you a love tap, they might have been damaging the jack here. So I can see that this upper portion was added. I really like this BMS thing too. They have like a standoff in here, so that's like just a indexed standoff for the spare that locates it into there on each side, and then you're just traditional Y strap. There was a really nice jack mount in here for like I forget what the German name jacks are, like Brunsquinzel, something like that. But you can see the quick release for what was there, and the owners before Nick and Frank picked this thing up, just took the jack with them, and that's kind of a common thing with off-road trucks. Like if you have a really good jack, I feel like the jacks go with the first owner, the owner that put the jack there. You can see it's kind of your traditional TubeWorks housing, just a top truss. We did all the lower pivots, and the upper pivots were already there. So we just kind of verified all of the geometry with this thing and made sure we could just build the lowers with the right spread and kind of at the right angle as far as like, if you looked at the truck from the side, what the kick would be for the lower pivots. Kind of old school brakes, Brakeman brakes. I think those were, I don't want to say anything bad about those, but I think at one point in time, those were a really premium setup for brakes, and there's just been a lot of advancement in technology with brakes where there's a lot of options out there, and there's also a lot more pistons available. So one of the things you can tell, like when this, even in, I want to say this was 2016 or 2017, this truck was constructed and finished maybe in 18, but we built it for 37s and we didn't have intentions to put 39s on here. And I don't know, I don't remember exactly the technicalities with them fitting or not, and I'm assuming they don't, but my best guess is just going to be firewall clearance. Obviously the spares have built-in you know, like indexes there that are going to hold them, and they're close, so they'd have to be adjusted. I'm sure that the back would fit, but you know, from most views it doesn't look too bad, but you're so used to seeing like 40-inch tires and 39-inch tires that it does have a presence to it that kind of feels like a just a smaller tire truck. But I mean, the overall vibe on this thing, this is your real deal 1400 truck. Like, this looks like a old MDR truck or a Moore truck. It's awesome. It's a cool truck. I'm not always keen to doing the, oh gosh, I don't know how to talk about those headlights, but I really like the OEM headlights there. So a little on the front end. This is your center mount style front end. It does have swing steer. It's got some really unique stuff going on. Part of this, so when I was at Cali, there was a guy, Mike Pram, and he kind of split the duties on some of this truck. So, you know, a lot of the front was a Mike Pram job. Nate at Blitz, he kind of took like our pivots for the upper arm pivots, like the spread and the height and all the rake and everything. That was already part of the bulkhead. So Nate came in and he drew up proper upper arms, upright and lower arms to work with this, as well as that swing steer system in there, which is quite unique. I think one of the most unique things you'll notice is that there's almost a floating steering box here that is like, it's got its own structure, which is your typical like bosses in here, boxed plate, all chromoly with like through holes kind of to capture some of the structure. But that's like a floating plate that holds that steering box. It's also captured with like a little saddle here. But it's just really unique to try to get the packaging right. There was just no room anywhere else. So it's just a tricky thing to look at, but we are gonna try to put a ram assist on there and figure out some of the issues there. We'll cover some of that in a minute. With working at Kali Kustoms, they did not skimp on anything. And what I mean by that is like all the hardware, they had, like Adam had the right guys to build the right stuff, and they weren't so much a huge shop, but the projects that rolled out of there like showed me a level of finish work, and not just finish work, but like do shit right, do shit right. Adam always wanted to do shit right. And same with like the chassis on this thing, like it was not even a question. They're like, no, we're powder coating the whole thing. Just like you would a luxury Prerunner, like a full tube chassis, sealed cab thing. The most optimal coating for your chassis, especially over time and to withstand abuse, is to powder coat it, all of it. I think nickel plating is pretty good for suspension. Chrome's good, chrome lasts pretty good. But definitely for like chassis and a cab, you just seal it and you powder coat it. So I know Maverick Powder Coat in Orange County did this whole thing. I remember loading it on the cart. Did all the cab, they sealed it first, and then, you know, before it went to powder coat, we kind of had like Justin and Mike and I all went through this thing and just checked for anything that we missed. And it's nice to have 3 sets of eyes instead of 1 set of eyes, because once it's powder coated, you can only imagine if you need to modify something or add something or, you know, weld something, then you're shitting the bed full time. So that was something really nice. And then I kind of want to talk about the inside too. Before we go in depth on any of the stuff in here, respect. Respect. If you know, you know. One of the things that this truck did get is a like full custom dash. I don't want to say who did it because I don't know for sure. I have my guesses, but I don't want to out someone or, you know, whatever. So it came with a pretty nicely designed dash and center console. I mean, I don't know like design wise if it fits the truck so much, but it's quality. And one of the most awesome things, and again, like it wasn't my mention to do it. It was already like part of the thought process for the finish work on this thing, was to stitch and upholster the dash, even though it's a race truck. And I just think that's an awesome piece. You know, using like a leather or vinyl like this, it'll still hold up. And as long as you're taking care of this thing like it should be, and it's not just sitting roaching in the weeds or something, it'll always be kept up. I mean, you might get rock splash, but that's what your visors are for. But anyways, I just think it's a nice touch. The other thing I'm a sucker for too is having switches and breakers. I know that there's like Motec and PDMs and Switch Pro and all that stuff, but I am a sucker for like period correct. If you can get some period correct, put all the good stuff where it counts and big parts where it counts, and then period correct the thing. Like, you know, having analog gauges on the co-driver side, and then having all your switches with breakers with nice indications, your fire suppression system, battery cutoff, and then this is actually a working glove box. It's very shallow, but it's enough to keep maps or whatever you need, even glow sticks or anything in there for maybe emergencies or flares or some shit. So, or cigarettes, dude, you know what I mean? But this thing's just like, it's a race truck. It's very simple. Alan at 714, I know 714 Motorsports, they did the paint on this thing, and then they also did all the Line X work inside the cab. Definitely a time and place for Line X. I'm not a fan of it, but it makes sense in a race vehicle in the cab. Special truck. I like the way that Cali ran. It was, you know, fabricators on one side, and then there was you know, Justin did all the wiring. Justin will be part of our story later, part of our journey. And then Mike Pram was there, and Mike Pram had some history building cars. And Adam was there, and you know, it was like a solid team. I didn't have any like bad times. Adam was always there for me when I needed him, and some of those times in my life were harder too, and just when you have a place where you can go where people accept you and they want to help you, that makes a huge difference in people's lives. So that's kind of where I'm at. I remember doing this mesh panel, that was a big thing. And if you guys like look on my Instagram, you go back pretty far, you'll see I documented all like every step of the parts I built for this thing in ways that I would, as far as like kind of stages of progression on this build. So there's a lot of special trinkets and unique work on this thing, like stuff that I really like to look at. It's one of those trucks where if you start looking at it more and more, there's like a lot of special, I guess, love put into this thing. And for Nick and his buddy Frank and their team, they bought this thing from the Black family to race it, and they want to race 1400. And it's kind of been a full circle thing for myself. I love the Black family too. They're some of my favorite people as well, and just that whole community down there has been awesome. But it's full circle, like have this thing back in my possession to do the work we're gonna do on it. As far as the work we're gonna do on it, I think that should be our next episode. We just wanted to kind of cover the truck right now and go over like the history with it and just scope it out, and then we'll kind of follow up with everything we've done. There's a big list. I don't have my whiteboard here, and I definitely don't have my papers on this thing. I have my phone with a list there, but that is not going to cut it for how I want to show it. But you know, it's just a beautiful truck, and it's a special truck, and it's cool. Cool shit fucks. So anyways, that's the Kali F-150. Hope you guys have a good Monday. Please like, comment, subscribe. Merch should be up and running. Just click the link below. Thank you.